Hello, I'm Janna, and welcome back to the Crafty Corner. Today is day 3 of Craftmas, and it is also time for a new prompt over at the Funkie Junkie Inspiration Ave. Today, I'm creating to the theme of home for the holidays. When I think home for the holidays, I have the most wonderful memories of building a gingerbread house when I was a kid. So today, we're going to be creating a gingerbread house using the Holtz Sizzix Village Collection, along with a whole bunch of Yummy Ranger products and some Idea-ology confections. If you'd like to see exactly which supplies I'm going to be using, go ahead and pause here. All right, let's head over to the Crafty Corner. So for home for the holidays, one memory I have as a kid is building gingerbread houses. So what better way to celebrate the theme of home for the holiday than by building a gingerbread house using the Sizzix die set Village Collection. Now, I've done gingerbread houses like this one before, but I have never built the brownstone as a gingerbread. So I thought that would be a great place for us to start today. Now, I've already pre-cut my die cut pieces, and we've got a whole stack of pieces right here. This is the roof. We've got a whole bunch of shingles. We've got some window frames. These would be the primary parts of the house. Now, the base. The base did not come from the original set that I just showed you. This came from the old school steel rule die village houses, and it is still a great die, and I thought, why not? Let's borrow the base from that set and give our house something to rest on. All right, so I'll set that aside. Now, let's just sort out our roof pieces. And these would be our window frame pieces, and this is the chimney, and then this would be part of the door frame. So first things first, I do want to build the house. And when building the house, we've got all sorts of little creases. And to help with those creases, we're going to be pulling in the Idea-ology remnant rub tool. This makes things so much easier. Now I'm just taking something, a hard surface, just pushing that little side down. Just makes it easier to align all of those teeny tiny flaps for when we're just bending them over. I'm just going to keep doing that all the way around. Good. Okay, and we've got another one here. Just pushing that. There we go. Good. Now off to the side, I already have a hot glue gun all warmed up and ready to go. But right now, we're just working on getting those little tabby thingies. So far, so good. Okay, 2 more tabs, and then we start on the larger creases. Okay. This one's a little bit harder to bend. Let's see here. There we go. Got it. All right, now got another line to crease right here. Just carefully bending that. Good. And again, taking the remnant rub tool. Okay, good. And last piece right here. All right, so we've got our house frame all ready to assemble. Now, you definitely could use Collage medium. You could use double-sided sticky tape, but I have found that the hot glue provides a much more stable and quickly adhesing alternative. So I'm just taking the hot glue, running that right along the tab, and we're just going to take the first part of our building and carefully line that up. Good. We've got that, and we're just going to press that down. I'm going to have a little bit of glue ooze on the inside, but that's fine. That is on the inside. All right, that looks good. Let's take care of that other side. So again, I'm just going to take the hot glue gun, going to run a line of glue, and we'll take that other side and bring that down. There we go. So that is looking pretty well aligned. And I'm going to try to keep the glue ooze from seeping to the outside of the building. So I'm just going to run my finger along that edge and There we go. So this would be our primary structure. Next, we're going to want to add some texture to it. Now, this is definitely something that could have been done before, but I find it easier to do this step after because then I can turn the house in my hands and I know I'm not going to miss any of the sides. Okay, so what we're going to be needing will be texture paste, grit, opaque. This is going to give us that really cool gingerbread feel. So just grabbing a palette knife, and we're going to very lightly scrape this onto the house. And I'm going to be covering the entire house with the grit paste. Okay. So while I work on this, this could take a little while, we're going to go ahead and put this part on fast forward. So we have our house base covered in grit paste now. We're going to set that aside and let it dry, and then I'm going to be adding a layer of paint over the top to finish off the gingerbread effect. Now we're going to bring in the platform, and I'm just going to do a quick check, make sure it's going to fit. Yes, that's going to look great. So for the platform, I'm going to build the platform, then I'm going to paint the platform and add a layer of Snowfall grit paste to it. So again, just bringing back the hot glue gun, and we're going to be making sure that all of our crease lines are already pre-folded. Just scrunching that along here. The old steel rule dies, I love those because the creases were just so sharp and there's very little that needs to be done. Okay, so a little bit of hot glue. Bring that in. And I'll just hold that a moment or two while that sets up. Okay. Now I love hot glue. It sets pretty quickly, so I don't need to hold this for too long, which is nice. All right, good. Peel off the glue ooze, and I'll just keep working my way around until I've got all four corners nicely glued. Again, just going to pinch that, and I'll take care of this side at the same time. Just a little bit of glue. Bring that around, and pinch. Ah, so much glue ooze. I love hot glue, but I hate glue strands. But if we get too many glue strands, I can always zap it with the heat tool, and that will take care of them. Okay. One more corner, a little bit of glue, and the tab. There we go. So now we have a nice platform to set our house on. I think I just want to paint the top white, and I'm going to leave the edges brown, and we're going to just cover the entire top with the Snowfall grit paste to add some texture to this. Definitely thinking that Snowfall is going to look really good on here. All right, so got the paint. We've got some picket fence. That should be good. And now we just need to paint that on with a paintbrush. So there we go. We've got a paintbrush. Let's go ahead and give this a quick paint. Won't take too much. There we go. Doesn't need to be perfect because it is going to be getting covered with the Snowfall. There. Not bad. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with this. Now I'm just going to let this dry, and then we're going to come back in and cover it with the Snowfall.
Now that our paint is dry, it is time to go in and add the Ranger Texture Paste Snowfall. I absolutely love this texture paste. It is going to dry in a beautiful snowy icy finish. It's partially transparent, and then there's these wonderful chunkety bits of glitter embedded in here. So we're just going to be taking our palette knife and we're going to be spreading this across our base. Now, This particular texture, it kind of spreads like chunky peanut butter. So we want to have a good coverage as we're moving this about. We're just going to use that edge of the palette knife, and it's going to help smooth things down so that we can get a beautiful snowy base to work with. So anytime I get a little bit of the paste on the edge, I can just take the palette knife and scrape and then even things out. There. That is looking really good. I can't wait to see this when it's all dry. So I'm just scraping off a little bit of extra paste here and there, and we're going to be setting this aside to dry. The drying time on this should take approximately 20 minutes, but as always, climate and weather will vary. Next, we're going to be bringing back our house. The grit paste is now dry, so we're going to want to add some paint to this. Now, we're going to be using the Distress Paint Gathered Twigs, and we're just going to give that a good shake, and I'm going to put some down onto the media mat. We're then going to paint this right on to our house, and this is going to give us the base layer of our gingerbread look. Now, the paint for Distress Paint, it varies. Some of the paints are very, very thick, and some of them are more liquidy. This one is somewhere kind of in between, so I do plan on adding a bit of water just to help with the fluidity of the paint. It just makes it go on so much smoother and allows me to get all of those little pieces of texture covered evenly with the paint. So the coverage is looking pretty good, and I'm just going to keep working my way all around the building. This could take a little bit of time, so we're going to go ahead and put this on fast forward as I finish up this paint job. Here is the finished paint job, and as you can see, we've got this fantastic texture, and this really does look like gingerbread, but we're not done yet. Pretty happy with this, but I want to add some depth, and we're going to do that using some Distress Walnut Stain crayon. I'm just going to take the crayon, and I'm going to be scribbling on the outside of the building. The texture is going to catch the crayon, and then I'll be able to blend it in to each side. I love how the crayon catches the high points, and it just gives some more shadow to the project. So we're just taking the crayon and we're going to be scribbling across each side, and I'm just going to use my finger to smudge this in. Now, if you didn't want to use your finger, you could scribble the Distress crayon off to the side and incorporate it using one of the Tim Holtz blending brushes. I'm not thinking about the dome foam, but we're talking about the brushes that come in the metal tube and that are adjustable in height. Those two would work wonderfully for adding the Distress crayon. But in this case, I am pretty happy just using my finger to get those highlights on the raised areas. So we'll just keep on adding the Distress crayon, and I'll keep smudging that out with my finger until I'm happy. I'm just going around the building and checking to make sure that I don't have any white spots showing. That way we're going to have a nice uniform look when we move on to our next step. Okay, so just doing a quick check, and everything is looking pretty good. So the next thing I want to do will be to add some acetate to our window frames. Now, I'm just going to rough cut this using the mini tonic snips, and this will give us some faux glass to put into the window frames. Just doing a rough cut, and that should be enough to get the window look that I'm going for. While we're here, we'll just cut a second piece of acetate, and that will give both sets of windows. Okay. So the initial plan will be to attach this with some Collage medium. Now, I am thinking that I might be able to reach on the inside of the house and add the collage medium. We're going to have to try and tilt the angle and see if this is going to work. Sort of. Yeah, that's definitely a bit of a tight fit, so I think I'm going to try something else. I'm going to take the collage medium and I'm going to run a line around the acetate piece, and then we're just going to slide that on the back side of the windows. All right, so just kind of tilting this and working my fingers in there. It's definitely a tight fit, but I should be able to adjust that acetate piece so that our windows will have that clear backing to them. Okay, it looks like we've got it. It's going to be a bit messy, but it's okay. It's on the inside, so it won't be overly noticeable. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We'll just pick up that piece of acetate, and again, I'll run a little bit of collage medium around the outside of that piece before we stick it down inside the building. All right, so we got that. We're gently sliding that in, and now we've got to press that so it's going to stick. Okay, not too bad. We now have our window pieces in place. Yeah, thinking I'm pretty happy with that. So we're going to be setting this aside right now, and we're going to be moving on to assembling our roof. That would be the base of the roof, and now we have all of those little shingle pieces. This is one of my favorite parts. I remember seeing a wonderful tutorial by Tim ages ago where he did this really cool pastel roof, and I believe that was done with distress paints. The distress paints that I'm going to be pulling in today are going to include broken china, squeezed lemonade, cracked pistachio, and for each of these, I'm just going to be putting a little bit right onto the craft mat, so I'll have a nice, easy access palette. Next, we have some kitsch flamingo, and that's going to complete our pastel palette. So now I'm just going to line these up, and I'm going to be randomly painting the different shingle pieces with the paintbrush, and the idea is to get a pastel candy type roof. Now, I absolutely enjoy this part, just using all the colors and just the randomness of it. This part is definitely a lot of fun. So we're just going to take the colors and I'm going to randomly place them onto the pieces, and that's going to give us a very colorful roof by the time that we're done. So let's go ahead and put this on fast forward. With all our roof pieces painted, it is time to start assembling the roof. And to do this, we're pulling in the hot glue gun. I am using the Sure Bonder fine tip. And as you can see, that is perfect for getting the smallest amounts of glue onto your substrate. So we're just going to take each of these pieces and we're going to line them up. Now, if you notice, not all of these pieces are cut the same. This is deliberate so that we can get a beautiful offset when stacking the shingles together. Now, right now, I would estimate that it's going to take approximately 7 pieces per side. And I'm going to be leaving the absolute peak of the roof blank because we're going to be filling that in with some beautiful imitation frosting. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to do one more layer here, just running that glue strand down. Now, if we do end up with a lot of glue strings after, I can definitely zap them with the Ranger heat tool. Ooh, that is looking so pretty. I love the pastel colors here. Now let's put the rest of this on fast forward. The completed roof looks absolutely gorgeous. I just love all those pastel colors together. But we're not done yet. We're going to take some Collage medium and I'm going to be painting the roof with the glue. And then we're going to sparkle it. Why not? That's just going to give it a even more definite candied look. So I diluted the glue just a little bit with a spritz of water off to the side. And now I'm just going to paint that on pretty quickly. And then we will add some beautiful distress glitter. So, of course, pulling in the distress glitter and a piece of scrap paper to stick underneath the roof so we can catch the extra glitter. Now we're just going to dump the glitter and check out the sparkle. Okay, so just dropping that down right across here. Good. Ooh, that looks wonderful. All right. And we'll just put that little bit of extra glitter right back into the bottle. And then we're going to repeat the same thing to the other side of the roof. Again, going in with the glue and just painting that on there. Okay. Yep. Just getting that glue coat down. Want to make sure that we've got good coverage because that glitter definitely adds a whole nother layer of deliciousness. Okay. Now for the glitter, let's go ahead. We're going to dump the bottle and just keep sprinkling that on. Make sure we've got good coverage. Give it a little tap. Ooh, so sparkly. And of course, putting that last little bit of glitter back in the jar. All right. So that takes care of the glitter, and we'll just set that off to the side. Now we're bringing back the house. So everything is all nicely dried now, and I want to add on some of the finer details. We've got this door piece, and I'm going to just put down some Collage medium, spread that around with my finger, and then we're going to stick that right onto the door. It's a really small piece. I could have attempted double-sided tape, but the last time I did that, I found that the pieces peeled off the structure really easily later. So this time I decided to go with the Collage medium and hope that everything will stick together much more efficiently this time. So just brushing that on with my finger and then adding the piece in place. There we go. That looks like it should be adhesed really well. And we'll just smooth that out with my finger. And if you didn't want to use your finger, definitely could use a paintbrush here as well. Okay, so that's the door piece done. Now I'm going to be turning this over and we're going to start working on placing the windows. Now for the windows, since we've got the acetate on there, I'm just going to be adding the Collage medium around the perimeter of each window, and hopefully that will be enough for the window frame to grip onto and stay adhesed with. So we're just going to take that window and we're gently going to place it down. I'm just kind of moving into place with my fingers and then holding it a couple of seconds so that the glue has some time to start setting. I'm also using a paintbrush to help nudge things into place. That just helps keep everything neatly aligned, and it allows me to press down and make sure that the window is going to stay stuck. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing to the other window. I'm just putting the Collage medium around the edges before we add our die cut. Okay, so just placing that die cut on here, and I'm using the paintbrush to just tap down the edges to make sure that all the glue is going to stick. We've definitely got some glue ooze, but the nice thing about the Collage medium is that it will shrink and eventually even vanish. All right, now let's get ready to place the roof. So we're going to be going in with some hot glue, and I'm going to use that on these little tabs. Again, there will probably be a fair bit of glue ooze, but if I squish the roof on just right, the glue ooze should drop onto the interior of the building instead of the outside. But even if we get some on the outside, it shouldn't be too bad because we can cover that up with frosting. So just lining up the roof, and we're going to push that down. Okay, just making sure everything is neatly tucked in, and I'm applying some good firm pressure as I'm waiting for the roof to set. That is going to look so good when we add on more decoration. Okay, so pretty happy with the way the roof is turning out. That looks like it should be nice and stable. Now comes my favorite part. So we're going to need some texture paste, opaque, and we're going to be loading this into a silicone frosting tipped tube. I love this part. Decorating has always been my absolute favorite. To load the silicone tube, we're going to be opening the jar of texture paste and scooping it out with a palette knife. Using the palette knife, we're then going to load the tube. I'm just sticking the palette knife all the way down and then scraping off the texture paste. And we're just going to keep repeating this until the tube is at least 2/3 full. The main thing is to just keep scraping and pushing the texture paste down until we have as much as we can get into the tube. Definitely takes a little bit of time, but the result is well worth it. Now, the silicone frosting tube was a find that I got off Amazon, but I've also seen these sold at Simon Says Stamp as well. So just tucking the last little bit of texture paste in there, and then we're going to take the plunger and we're going to very carefully smush this down. So we're going to take the plunger and slowly insert that into the tube. As you can see, it is compacting the texture paste. And first I just kind of tamp it down, and then we back the plunger up to try to get rid of all the air bubbles. Now we are ready to frost the gingerbread house. Now to start, I'm going to be placing the texture paste frosting onto the roof first. There are several ways that we can apply the texture paste. First, we can just do a straight line going across the top. Or two, we can try to go for some ruffles. Either is going to give us an interesting look. But to start with, I just want to cover up the seam before we start to get fancy with the icing. So the hardest thing is trying to find the right camera angle to shoot this in and to be able to get my hand on the silicone tube as well as the plunger. So we're just going to go straight forward with a basic snail trail, and this is going to be our foundation and jumping off point for the decoration. Okay, so there would be line number 1. Now we're going to go in and start filling in the area that connects the peak of the roof to the rest of the shingles. And now I'm just going to take the tube and I'm going to try to kind of wibble wobble back and forth to get more texture on the frosting. So this is just a very slow back and forth with the hand, trying to get that ruffled look. All right, let's see if we can't get a close-up of that. Yeah, you can see how we've got the back and forth going, and we're definitely getting a more authentic icing type of look. All right, now to just try and readjust. I'm trying to stay in camera frame, but this is a really, really awkward angle to be creating at. And trying to keep the frosting tip in frame and to show you exactly what we're doing. All right, kind of playing with the angle. Let's see what we can do this time. I'm going to slowly push the plunger down, and at the same time, I'm squeezing the silicone tube, trying to keep the air from building up, and hopefully this is going to give us a very smooth run with the frosting look. Okay, and again, we're just doing the back and forth squiggle. There we go. Definitely liking how that is turning out. Let's see if we can take a closer look. Oh, there we go. That is just what I'm going for. We've got the ruffles, we've got the snail trail. It is looking really good. Now let's move on to the front of the building. Over here, I'm going to start at the base and I'm going to work my way up with a snail trail going around the arch of the door. I'm just taking my time, going really slowly and trying to apply steady pressure to the plunger so that I don't get any big blobs of the texture paste. Okay, pretty good. We got the door outlined. So next we're going to need to readjust a bit. And I think I want to do the windowsills next. Now, the main thing is I want to keep the roof of the house kind of off the media mat so that I don't squish the frosting on the roof, but I also need it at an angle where I can get at the windowsills. So hopefully we can push this in frame and make sure that everything can be seen. Okay, so I'm doing a little bit of a squiggle at the bottom of the windowsill. There we go. Pretty happy with that. Now we're just going to be rotating the house again. And we're going to try to do the same thing to the other side. So I'm just going to move that. I'm going to use the texture paste jar to kind of prop things up. And again, I'm going to have to reposition to make sure that we are staying within frame. All right, let's get lined up so that we can do the next set of windowsills. And again, I'm just going to do a little bit of a slow squiggle. All right, there's number one, and here is number two, just giving that little wobble to get some texture. Okay, that is good. So now I want to start working around the edges of the house, but before we do that, I think we are going to need to attach the gingerbread house to the base. To attach the house to the base, we're going to be pulling in the hot glue gun. And we're going to be pretty generous with the amount of hot glue that we place on here. If we get glue ooze around the edges, it's not going to matter at all because we're going to be completely covering that up with another round of frosting. So hopefully all of that glue will be more than enough to adhere to our base. So we're just continuing around the edge, never minding the glue ooze. That's all going to get camouflaged. And now let's go ahead and stick this down. I'm just lining things up, trying to center it the best we can. And looks like I need to do a little bit of touch up on the edges. We're just going to run a bead of glue around the edge. And again, it's going to completely get covered by the next round of frosting. But we're just cementing the house right onto its base so it's not going to wander off on us. Okay, I think things are starting to look pretty stable. Oh, maybe a little bit more down by the door. All right, that seems pretty good. Now we're going to readjust and get more frosting on here. So I kind of want to work around the base of the house and then we're going to be doing the edges. So just lining up that tip and slowly pushing the texture paste out. And that should give us a really nice smooth look. Now let's add some decoration. So out front, I decided that I wanted to start by adding some candy canes. These are going to make a really nice entryway for the house. What I'm pulling out right now are candy canes from Confections. We also have some round candies and some long skinny ones, also from the Idea-ology Confections collection. These are just the right size for making decorations on the outside of the gingerbread house. Now, around the edge of the house, I want to do a little bit of an alternating pattern using some of those peppermints. We've got the green and the red, so I thought that we could do a green on the outside and then a red on the inside, and that's just going to add more to the festive feel of the house. The confections are definitely a favorite for this time of year. Okay, so continuing around the back, we are going to add another confection high up. That'll just add some visual interest in the back. Let's see here. I think we're going to add another green one. So we'll just take that and smush that right on there. Pretty good. And let's see, I think I'd like to do a couple more candy canes as well. It'll just add some more symmetry to the house. So we're just going to add a little bit of extra texture paste at the base, and this is going to give me a foundation to stick those candy canes into as I press them into the line of frosting that's already on the wall. All right, so we're pushing that in. Ooh, definitely liking that. And I think I need another round peppermint at the base. We'll add another piece right there. Good. And we'll turn the house. And I'm going to be doing the same thing that I did on the other side and adding 2 green peppermints and 1 red. So we're just going to stick that into the still wet frosting base, and that should give it enough stability to stay put. All right, placing that red one in, and now the 2 green ones. I am just loving how all of this has come together. The brownstone is such a really fun shape to work with, and gingerbread is just, it's so festive for this time of the year. All right. Next thing, I want to add a few more pieces of the stripy peppermint candy on the top of the roof. But to do that, I do need to lay down an additional line of texture paste because it has actually already started to dry, which I am pretty surprised at. Normally this takes a lot longer to dry, but now we're just going to take that peppermint stick and smush that onto the top. I'm going to take a second one, we're going to rough measure it, and then I will need to snip that. Just a quick snip, and this is now going to be the right size to finish that peppermint line on top of the house. And just pushing that down. There we go. Ooh, that adds a really nice finishing touch. Definitely happy with that. And I would call that done. I love all of the embellishments that we've added to here. We've got the wonderful pieces from Idea-ology confections. We've got the distress glitter on the roof that we were able to paint with distress paint. And all of this is just really coming together, and this really gives me great holiday vibes. I'm so happy with the way this turned out, and the texture. Got to talk about the texture. The texture paste plus the paint and the distress crayon really gave this a great gingerbread texture. Definitely loving this. Thank you so much for joining me here today at the Crafty Corner for this week's theme of holiday homecoming for the Funkie Junkie Inspiration Avenue. I absolutely had a blast putting this project together, and I hope that you've enjoyed the creative process. And until next time, happy crafting.